you had an opportunity.
Okay, so I'm here at Occupy New Hampshire. Sir, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're here today.
My name is Jeff Allen. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm here to help support Occupy New Hampshire.
What are the goals of Occupy New Hampshire?
Well, the goals of Occupy New Hampshire are to get more people to become aware of the fact of the disproportionate influence that the wealthiest 1% of the people in this country have over the financial system and the governmental process, and the adverse effect that has on the rest of the 99%.
So let me ask you, what specifically? It appears that you're working on what I refer to as an exit poll referendum ballot. What is you're working on specifically here at this table?
Well, in conjunction with these organizations, carriers, we put together a series of questions and we called it a ballot, and we printed over 100,000 of them. And our attempt was to pass these out at every single polling location today. We did not make it to every location, but the majority of our volunteers were veterans. And it just to give New Hampshire registered voters an opportunity to vote on something other than a candidate, to vote on policy issues, to plant a seed so that people begin to understand that their voice counts, they have an empowered voice, and it should matter. We want this country to turn back to its democracy.
You actually did have a piece of exciting news, right? You're going to be archived, is that right?
Yes, correct. This will be filed in the Library of Congress, is that how you do it? And once we compile all the stats, they'll be uploaded to multiple different websites so people can have a chance to tune in on how they feel the results came out of New Hampshire. Eventually, the goal will be to bring this to every state in the country. We decided to start in New Hampshire.
Two last quick follow-ups. One, how do people who want to see how do people get this ballot who don't live in New Hampshire? Is there a way that they can actually file for it online? Or?
Yes. All one word, go to democracyforempire.org.
Okay. And the last question is, what's the main thing that you'd like to see people take away from this process, sir?
I'd like people to take away from this process the idea that their opinion counts, their voice counts, and that they have an opportunity to participate in democracy, even if they're not a billionaire.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. Good evening. Have a good luck this evening.
Excellent. I appreciate your time.
Okay, Miss, please tell me your name and where you're from.
I'm Molly, and I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
And what brings you to Occupy New Hampshire today?
Well, I was coming up with my parents to just take a look at the atmosphere for following the primary Occupy and what's going on with the media and what's going on with the candidates. Just sort of everything, not just Occupy.
See the whole tornado, the whole hurricane in motion. Are you a student or what do you do?
I'm a student. I'm a freshman at Hobart Smith Colleges in upstate New York.
Oh, congratulations. So now, for someone your age, what are the things that worry you most about the future, most about being an American?
I'm worried about losing sight of what we founded ourselves on, about freedom and, just this idea that there is an American dream and there's just so much hatred and it just makes it impossible for anything to get done, and I worry that by the time people my age enter the political realm that we're just going to have such a mess that it's going to be impossible to fix.
What would you like to see done? I mean, do you think there's a remedy to that problem? Do you think people your age should be more empowered, or
compromise? I honestly think that's all that needs to be done, and we saw Obama try and do it when he entered office, and that was one of his big things. He said he was going to, cross the bridge and make more bipartisan conversation, but the Republicans shot him down time and time again, and it makes you sad. It discourages you when you realize that no one's willing to talk about things and no one's willing to come to a compromise.
do you think that as open discussion is? Do you think that at the end of the day, if people were able to discuss things openly, a lot more would be accomplished?
I really do.
So whomever our next president is, whether it's Mitt Romney or President Obama or whomever it is, what are the most important traits they can possess? What's the most important trait a leader can possess to you?
Open-mindedness. This idea that we have to stick to what our party says is right is absurd. You just should keep your mind open, see where society is going, see where everything's going, where what the people are asking for. Just open-mindedness, honestly.
Thank you so much for your time. Good luck this evening. Okay, and this gentleman actually drew this remarkable pavement drawing. Sir, can you please introduce yourself and tell us your name and where you're from?
My name is Carl Kelly. I'm from Massachusetts. I used to do this in Europe years ago. Did it for a living, actually. Traveled around that way. Well, I haven't done it in years, so I'm glad to have a release. And
What brought you here today, sir?
well, I wouldn't really do this for any other candidate. As I say, Ron Paul he represents where I think the country's at, and where he's not in denial. I think all the other candidates are in denial as to how serious matters are in this country. I'm very, very fearful about the future, and to me, he's a last chance. It's that dramatic to me.
What are the things you're most concerned about?
Most concerned about dissolution of the dollar and all the other currencies as well, and the livelihoods of average Americans like myself. This is the disparity between the middle class is disappearing. There's no jobs, losing their houses, and the bankers are all getting off scot-free. None of them are going to jail. It's a disaster, and he's the only one guy talking about it. So.
You had said before he's not only is the country in peril, his party is in peril. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the whole party, other than him, are in denial as to how serious the situation is before us. They're not really talking about cuts of any significance. It's just tinkering stuff. And
Do you think that's true of the whole country?
well, I think there's a lot of people following Ron Paul. The media is typically not talking about it because he's a threat to the two-party system that we have in place.
What are the most important qualities, whether it's Congressman Paul or whomever our next president? What's the most important qualities they can possess?
I want to see us out of these wars. That's probably number one right now. And secondly, the economy.
Thank you for your time, sir. Good luck this evening. Okay, so here I am outside of Gingrich headquarters. Now, as I